then, and looking at Emerald and similar companies, the question of regulation and how they're regulated, or if they're regulated, springs to mind.
Yeah, indeed. It's a very important question. So I'll start with a report from War on Want from 2008, so based largely on crimes that were committed by PMCs during the war against Iraq, the illegal war against Iraq. Getting away with murder, the need for action on UK private military and security companies. So as they point out, tens of thousands of mercenaries working for PMCs outside legal control. The US and Iraq at the time were taking action. The UK government had failed to act despite, as we've mentioned, being the biggest player. And this is basically, again, repeated in various articles, but this is from openDemocracy in 2018, co-written by Dr. Ian Overton, who heads up the Action Against Armed Violence organisation, which tries to regulate PMCs to some degree. Britain is the world centre for private military contractors, and it's almost impossible to find out what they're up to. Welcome to the murky world of mercenaries and floating armories, so already setting the theme. And as part of the article points out, the British PMSC industry, the private military security company industry, Britain has basically led this privatization of modern warfare. It leads the world in providing armed contractors to so-called hotspots. And some of the biggest clients are governments in those hotspots. Since 2004, the UK government has spent approximately £50 million annually. The total worth of the PMC industry stands between 69 billion and 275 billion. So it's a very, very lucrative market sector. And then if we look at what Dr. Ian Overton actually says within that article, he said that AOAV had investigated 235 UK-based internationally operating PMSCs. So this is in 2018. These profit-seeking entities are entrusted with government security tasks, while themselves being subject to a perilously weak system of self-regulation. So again, we see, and I'll come on to who else is being self-regulatory shortly, but this is a response to Baroness Tong in 2021 during parliamentary questions, who basically asked Lord Ahmed of Wimbledon what legislation was in place to basically provide oversight for, as she said, UK citizens acting as mercenaries or training with foreign militaries. Let's see what Lord Ahmed said. First of all, he said, we draw a clear distinction between mercenaries and PSCs. We promote high standards for PSCs internationally through voluntary regulation of the sector. So we come back to this idea of voluntary regulation. And as I said, this was in 2021. He goes on to say members of UK armed forces regularly undertake training with a wide range of international actors, where this best supports the development of UK military capability. And this is important, supports wider government objectives. Well, why is this so important? Because if we look at another organization, which could be largely described as a PMC, is the White Helmets, which was established by a former British military intelligence officer, James Le Mesurier, in 2013, was almost exclusively embedded with al-Qaeda derivatives in Syria and has been accused by Syrian civilians of involvement in organ trafficking, child trafficking, and staging, of course, the famous chemical weapon events that basically sustained the regime change war narratives against the then Syrian government. They are also self-regulatory. They don't come under any investigation by UN agencies or even by the British government. That is effectively their primary funder. And then let's have a look again at Lord Ahmed. This was in 2019, talking about the White Helmets. The UK has provided 38 million from the Conflict Stability and Security Fund. We've talked about that many times on UK Column, to support the White Helmets over the past 5 years. This assistance, delivered through trusted third-party implementers as part of a coordinated international program of assistance. And for sure, the White Helmets were furthering British Foreign Office objectives in Syria, which was effectively regime change. And then this is going to be part of the investigation that I will publish up at UK Column. It will be a series of articles because there's a lot of information to trawl through. But let's have a look at the founder and executive director of Emerald Solutions Group. They were formed in 2012, 1 year before the White Helmets were put together by James Lemessurier. As I said, he was a former British military intelligence operator. This is Wayne Christopher Connor. Now, what is seriously interesting about his LinkedIn profile is that to a large degree, you can see the crossover between him and James Lemessurier's career. In 2007, he joined Olive Group, which you will remember, Mike, from the diagram we did way back about the White Helmet, that were then bought up by Blackwater and, bought up by Academy, who also incorporated Blackwater. And in 2007, James Lemessurier left Olive Group. So Wayne Connor was basically there prior to, he joined just as James Lemessurier was leaving. They also crossed paths in the Balkans and in other areas of operations. So very interesting, as I've said. The other self-regulatory group backed by the West and the UK, of course, is HTS itself, Al-Qaeda, that was commissioned to form a committee to investigate its own crimes of ethnic cleansing and atrocities committed against Syrian civilians since the takeover in December 2024. And of course, Israel is extremely self-regulatory. It looks into the crimes of genocide committed against Palestinians.
Thank you, Vanessa. Any brief thoughts on that?
Well, actually, just on that, in terms of UK column content, there's a very interesting interview with Morgan Lorette, who was in Iraq in 2003-4, working for Blackwater, subsequently joined the US Armed Forces. It's entitled Outsourcing Morality, up on the UK column website. So that would be my first response, would be to go and listen to that. It's very, very insightful.
Super, thank you. Sandy, let's bring you back to the programme then. And